Welcome to the Bowden Blitz College Football Playoff Edition. I'm Joe Lisi, joined by former National Coach of the Year, Terry Bowden. Coach, the semifinal playoff games are on tap this week. Two great matchups. We'll dive into those in just a couple of minutes. Give me your thoughts about both games that'll take place Thursday and Friday night, and we'll take a look at the updated odds. Is, in fact, Indiana the team to beat at the number one seed?
Well, first of all, I love these teams. The teams that are remaining, I think, if not the best coming into the playoffs, I think they were the hottest teams now. And Ole Miss and Miami especially have jumped up in how we perceive their abilities to win it all. But as you look at the odds, I just can't see any flaws in Indiana. I keep trying to think everybody else has got a flaw, has somewhere where it's not quite there. Obviously, Indiana won every game, so they've been able to consistently show it. But I just think, as I've said, most of the second half of the season, they check all the boxes. They play offense, defense, run, pass, special teams, and really well coached. And I don't think they depend on having the best athletes, no matter who they play. They have athletes that play the best at their position, and football's a team sport. They play the best football as a team, and I think that's what makes them the odds-on favorite to win. And I think that's going to hold out to the end.
Yeah, they do have a rematch with Oregon. They went into Eugene earlier in the year and won that matchup as basically a 6.5-point road underdog. Picked up that victory 30-20. That was a game that was tied at halftime. Halftime adjustments by Kirk Cignetti offensively and defensively allowed the Hoosiers to pull away by 10 points. When you talk about the conferences, though, the Big Ten is guaranteed to have at least one team in the national championship game. We have to see who wins out with Miami and Ole Miss. But I'll ask you, is in fact the SEC dominance gone now? Is the Big Ten in fact the conference to beat in college football?
Well, I don't think you can say anything's forever, but right now, when you look at the playoffs, and you got to go look at the bowls too, because that's the rest of the conferences. Big Ten is outshined, outplayed, outperformed the SEC in almost all head-to-head competitions. The teams that went down the SEC have not performed well in postseason, and now we're looking at the Big Ten. We always thought the Big Ten had a couple of real teams, but the meat of the conference wasn't doing as well. So right now, I think at the end of this season, we're going to say, okay, SEC, it's time to put up or shut up. Because Big Ten has jumped up, and we'll see who wins it all, but they got a chance to have somebody in the championship game. And the SEC has still got a chance, but they've got to work their way to it.
When you talk about a rematch, does the underdog potentially have the inside track? We know that these teams met earlier in the year, and Oregon lost that ball game at home. Do you give the inside track or maybe the advantage early on in this matchup to Oregon, or you're still sticking with Indiana and Kirk Cignetti?
I think that's a factor in favor of Oregon. I think as you look at which team generally wins the second game, as long as the first game was a close game, wasn't a blowout, wasn't an example of two teams that are distance apart in their talent level, I think we see that Oregon and Indiana are not that separated. I do think that factor would lean towards Oregon because it just seems like the team that lost the first close game, and that one was even closer than the 10 points represented. I think that point goes to their advantage, but still, I mean, Indiana was playing on the road against Oregon. That's a hard place to play. We're talking about a neutral field now, so that probably balances out. It's a toss-up to a 4-point favorite game for Indiana, but I do think that's in favor of Oregon. But I think overall, when you look at the entire football team and the way in which Indiana has been coached and the way they played, I think overall the more factors go with Indiana than they do with Oregon.
In the other game, we see Ole Miss as a 3.5-point underdog to a red-hot Miami team. Miami and Mario Cristobal hitting on all cylinders, potentially the best defensive performance that we've seen from the start to the playoffs till now. Is Ole Miss playing with house money after picking up that victory against Kirby Smart in Georgia, knowing that Lane Kiffin wasn't there? Not a lot of people gave the Rebels a shot to win that ball game and advance. They're 11-1 in the regular season. Right now, that you could make the argument that their offense is as hot as any team in the playoff.
Yeah, they are. And I think their offense is going to be one of the key factors in the game. And now, when you're talking about house money, I think that might apply to the fans. I think the fans would be perfectly satisfied after a little bit of time to get used to it of how far they've already come. Coaches that weren't sure where they stood, a coach that wasn't sure how he would do as a head coach. I think he's playing with a little bit of house money. But I think the players, it did nothing about house money. They see a championship being out there. They see it as a job unfinished of more to do. And the way they are playing, I don't even think with the players, I don't think you talk about house money. I think they are just as pumped up, like all four of these teams, that they are now in a position to be one game away for playing for the national championship. And so I think that's the overriding thing, whether it be with Ole Miss, when it comes to those players. And I think they showed that in their last big win over Georgia.
Yeah, we'll see exactly how that game plays out. Is there one game you're looking forward to more? Is it the Oregon-Indiana rematch, or is it, in fact, the underdog matchup between the Rebels and Hurricanes?
I like the underdog matchup. I just think the storylines there are more compelling to me. Indiana, of course, the big picture of Indiana is one of the most remarkable stories, a team that's never come close to a year like this, to a football program that was the worst in college football 3 years ago. That may be the bigger overall, but as the playoffs have developed and the season has developed, I think the fascinating thing is Ole Miss in Miami. And from just my personal interest, I'm so anxious to see which one, because that game, it all depends on what factor you go with, who's going to win this game. Because there are factors that got to happen for Miami, and if they do that, they'll win. And there are factors that got to happen for Ole Miss, and if they do that, they'll win. So I think that's the case. I do believe Indiana, that if they don't make mistakes and they don't turn the ball over, they don't make a lot of mistakes, I think they will methodically get themselves into the championship. The other one, man, it's a very interesting game with two interesting football teams in Ole Miss and Miami.
You can make the argument that Trinidad Chambliss is the hottest quarterback out of the four when we look at the final four teams in the college football playoff. The throws that he was able to make against a very good Georgia secondary, putting his team in a position in the fourth quarter to win that matchup by 5 points, the frozen ropes in the fourth quarter to really challenge Georgia's secondary. I would give the edge to Chambliss over everybody else. But who do you see as the best quarterback out of the four remaining?
I'm with you, Joe, on that one. Nobody is playing better than Trinidad Chambliss. Nobody is going out there and creating plays, of extending plays, being productive, making big plays, being the major factor in a football game. That's what he has done over and over again. So I think, in my mind, he is clearly the best playing quarterback in the playoffs right now, and the best of all there. Now, will he be the number one guy drafted? I don't know that all those factors come into play, but I think he is the one quarterback that can be a difference to a football team, to the point that with his effort, with his ability to play the best he can, he could take them to the championship game and compete with whoever's there because of his ability to lead them down the field to score touchdowns.
The games start on Thursday night. We'll come back. We'll dive into both matchups for the college football playoff semifinals. We'll dive into Ole Miss, Miami, and, of course, the rematch, Oregon and Indiana, coming right back on the Bowden Blitz. All right, back on the Bowden Blitz, Joe Lisi and Coach Bowden breaking down the two remaining college football semifinal playoff games. We'll take a look at the first game on the board Thursday night at 7:30. That's Ole Miss and Miami. It's a battle of underdog teams. Both of these teams were long shots to get here. They both have a position to be potentially playing in a national championship game. Coach, Miami opens up as a 3.5-point favorite in this matchup. 51.5 is the total. How do you see this game early on, at least developing for both Miami and Ole Miss?
Well, I think Miami has those things that play best in a postseason action. The defense is at the top of its game, maybe the most athletic defense on the field now. I would say it is the most athletic defense right now. The ability to create plays, put pressure on a quarterback, and a great front, defensive front. Plus, they have a running game. They've got a running back that can power run, that can make things happen as a running back. Those two things are very critical. But where I'm thinking mostly about this game is I don't think you can hold the score down that much against Ole Miss. I just think Trinidad Chambliss. You go look at their team during the regular season. I want to say they scored over 30 points 10 out of 12 games. And we say, well, this is a good defense. Well, so is Georgia, not once, Georgia twice, Oklahoma 34, 39-35 against Georgia. They've scored against good people. And so I just see this one now where Georgia's got to go out there and play great defense, put pressure on the quarterback, and run that football to keep Ole Miss off the field. Because to me, the question is, can you keep Ole Miss under 30? Because I'm not sure the way Miami plays, the way they call plays, the way they want to win. I don't think they want to get in a scoring contest.
No, and we talked about Carson Beck's performance in back-to-back games. In the win against Texas A&M, he throws for 103 yards in the 10-3 victory. Did have a touchdown pass to Malachi Toney in the victory over Ohio State. He throws for 135 yards. This is an Ole Miss offense that is averaging well over 260 passing yards per game, and that they're averaging well over 30 points per game. Now, I think the matchup for Ole Miss is, can they effectively run the football on that Miami front seven? Miami has really bounced back with a dominant defensive effort throughout the playoffs. They're holding opposing offenses to 31% on third down conversions, only 84 rushing yards per game, and only 2.8 yards per carry. If Lisi and the rushing attack could get going and they have success, that could open up the play action passing attack for Trinidad Chambliss. How important, Coach, is Trinidad Chambliss in the RPO game going up against potentially Miami's front seven?
I think when we look at what happened at Georgia, I think the key that I like about Ole Miss is, first of all, Trinidad Chambliss will not hold the ball. He'll get it out of his hands very quickly. Great play calling, great choice of plays, and they mix the run game with the passing game. Kewan Lacey will mix in with a running game. They're not going to go run, try to establish the run. From the very beginning, you're going to see run, pass, run, pass, run, and you'll see Trinidad getting the ball out of his hands so quickly because they know that Miami can rush. They're not going to sit back in that pocket and look for an intermediate throw. Now, they may throw deep, and you can throw deep pretty quick if it's man coverage, but I see them throwing the ball quickly, mixing that up with a running game. But it's critical that Lacey is successful in doing that, too, because against Georgia, and again, he is an extremely talented running back. I think he's first team all-conference in the SEC. He can beat you on the outside and on the inside. So I think it's important that he runs the ball some to mix with their passing game because their offense has to go together. The run and the pass have to go together. And let me add this. If you do get to the quarterback, you better tackle him because when he spins out, he's very fluid. He's a dual threat. He's very talented. He makes the biggest plays when he throws downfield on a scramble. And unlike even Georgia, unlike Gunnar Stockton, he's accurate downfield. He hits the deep ball. He doesn't miss very often. They're not looking for a personal foul or a 10-yard holding penalty. They're looking for a completion, and he does an incredible job of when he does break contain. If you don't keep him in your sights when you rush the ball, he will spin out, and he throws the ball very well at extending plays.
You talk about Trinidad Chambliss, second on the team in rushing yards behind Kewan Lacey. Lacey's rushed for over 1,400 yards, 23 rushing touchdowns averaging 4.9 yards per carry. On the flip side, Trinidad Chambliss does have 520 rushing yards, well over 4 yards per carry, and 8 rushing touchdowns, significantly more productivity out of the quarterback as it relates to the rushing attack than Miami with Carson Beck.
Yeah.
And we talked about Miami's physicality with the offensive line. Miami is averaging 152 yards on the ground. You got to believe that they try, or at least early on, try and utilize Mark Fletcher between the tackles. We have talked about how Georgia had success early on. This is the worst rushing defense in the college football playoff.
Yeah.
Ole Miss is allowing 146 yards per game. Do you try and work Mark Fletcher early, or would you take a shot the way Mike Bobo did in the first half, coming right out of the gate with play action to loosen up that front seven?
Yeah, I think at this late stage of the game where everybody's solid, I mean, Ole Miss may not be the best left over in running the ball, but everybody's pretty good. And Ole Miss did pretty daggum good against Georgia playing defense. But I think you've got to go with Fletcher early, but I think you want to mix in the pass and be consistently mixing it in and don't just run completely. But I think they've got to establish their running game. Now, I do think they've got, if not the best offensive line in the country, they've got the best maybe offensive line left over of these 4 teams. And with that, I'm expecting them to do a great job running the football. They're going to want to continue to run it. I think Mark Fletcher is going to be a key to the game, and the offensive line protecting the quarterback. Because again, very important that Carson Beck plays a clean game. Because if he gets flustered or if he feels like he's got to go out and win it. You know, he threw 6 interceptions in their two losses during the regular season. He only threw 4 interceptions in the other 10 games, but he threw 6 in the 2 losses. So he needs to keep calm. You need to mix the running with him because he can't scramble out of way. He can't scramble away from the pressure. Run the football, dump it off, and give him passing situations that are very manageable.
We'll see how that game plays out Thursday night. I'm going to take the points with the hot team, Ole Miss. We'll get coach's take when we come back from break. We'll also break down that key matchup, Oregon and Indiana, coming up next. All right, back on the Bowden Blitz, Joe Lisi and Coach Bowden breaking down the college football playoff games that take place on Thursday and Friday night. We left off talking about Ole Miss, Miami. I like Ole Miss, and I'm going to take a shot over the 51.5, Coach.
Yeah.
How do you see this game playing out?
And I'm with you. I think I like Ole Miss. I think they find a way to score points. And if you're going with Ole Miss, I think you take the over. Now, I do think people out there that are going to stick with Miami and pick with the favorite that they need to go with the under because it's going to be a lower scoring game if Miami wins.
Yeah, we'll see how that game exactly plays out Thursday night at 7:30. The Friday night game between Indiana and Oregon is a rematch. We talked about it last time. Oregon was favored at home by 6.5 points. Now they're catching 3.5. I'll tell you this, Coach, if their defense steps up the way it did against Texas Tech, Oregon's going to be in this matchup. We'll see. I think Indiana is not going to be able to push around Oregon the way they did Alabama. But how do you see this game developing early on?
Well, I do think it's going to be a great match. It's going to be one that's going to have to be won in the 3rd or 4th quarter because of how good Oregon is, how well they play on defense. Their offense didn't do that much against Texas Tech, but with that quarterback, the way he can deliver the football, his arm strength, the way they love to run the football, they're going to be able to pound it and run their offense enough to keep this game close. But when you look at Indiana, again, I keep looking for weaknesses and mistakes or where they fall short. I just don't see it. They're so well coached. They're so disciplined. And again, if you go across that that defense and offense, you're not going to see 4 and 5 stars nearly what you see with those other teams. This is a team of 2 and 3 stars that have developed, that are coached well. Many of them coming out of a group of 5 programs. And Coach Signetti and his staff have done a great job. They play great in every area. So, and we know their quarterback would not have gotten the Heisman unless he would be consistent. He's really thrown it less than anybody in the playoffs. And he's also thrown for more touchdowns than anybody. So it's a good, balanced team. They're going to run it for about as much as they throw it. And defensively, they're one of the best in the country on defense. So, again, somewhere along the line in the second half, I just see Indiana, and they don't make mistakes. And unless the world falls, unless they just fall off, they just do what they've done every single game, preseason, postseason. I see them pulling away, tight ball game, but getting the win in the second half.
Yeah, the biggest thing for Indiana is that they have one of the top third down offenses in all of college football,
Unbelievable.
converting 56% of their third down opportunities. On the flip side, they're holding opposing offenses to only 28% of third down conversions. So their defense is giving them short fields, and the offense is converting and sustaining drives. That's a very difficult recipe to win against unless you're dictating the tempo. If I'm looking at Oregon here, Coach, I want to start fast. I want to put the pressure on Fernando Mendoza. Indiana's done a great job in all of these big matchups of being able to dictate tempo and then obviously running when they have a lead in the second half. We know about this offense with Black and Roman Hemby can run it between the tackles, very disciplined on the offensive line. What can Oregon do defensively to potentially confuse Fernando Mendoza and that offense?
Well, they're top 3 in the country, Oregon, in explosive plays and throwing the deep ball. They've got to do that. They have got to, as they run the football, they've got to take every opportunity they can to have an explosive play because, one play drives are easier to call and easier to execute than 15 play drives. You may want 15, but so many things can happen against a great team. They've got to have some explosive plays. Their offense all year has been able to get them, and if they can run the football, that's going to put them in second medium, second short. It's going to give them opportunities on second and third down to waste a deep ball. And I think that's what they need to do. If they can grab 7 points on one deep ball that scores, that's enough to put them in favor of the game. Although, again, Indiana, one of the best at not giving up the big play, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Last time these teams played, they combined for 50 points. We see the total at 46 and a half. I think Oregon wins it outright, Coach. In a rematch situation, I'm willing to take the points. I'm willing to take the plus 148, and I do lean to the over. How do you see it playing out?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sticking with Indiana. I think everybody can tell by the way I'm talking. I'm sticking with the fact that they have been the most consistent football team in the overall performance of their football game. So I do think they will win it. I think it's the over, and I think they win it by just being more consistent, turning the ball over less, and just playing a better overall football game because I think they have the best overall football team.
We'll see you after the games next week. Have a great weekend, everyone.